What if I told you that most people are investing their money in completely the wrong order, and that mistake alone is costing them tens of thousands of dollars over their lifetime? Not because they picked bad stocks, not because they missed some crypto trend, just because nobody ever taught them the correct sequence. Today, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to walk you through the exact order you should be putting your money to work, step by step, from the very first dollar all the way to building serious long-term wealth. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to see your entire financial picture differently. So let's get into it. Before we dive into the actual steps, I want to make something really clear. This isn't about getting rich quick. It's not about beating the market or finding the next Tesla. It's about playing the game in the smartest possible way, using the rules that already exist in your favor. Because here's the thing that most financial content never tells you. The order in which you invest your money matters just as much as how much you invest. You could be saving aggressively, doing everything right on the surface, and still be leaving enormous amounts of money on the table simply because you skipped a step or did things out of sequence. Think of it like building a house. You would never put the roof on before you laid the foundation. You would never start hanging drywall before the frame is up. Investing works exactly the same way. There is a logical, proven sequence that maximizes every single dollar you put in, and most people have never been shown what that sequence looks like. So that's what we're doing today. Step by step, no fluff, just the real framework. Step 1. And this might surprise you. Before you invest a single dollar anywhere, you need to build what I call your financial floor. This is your emergency fund. Now, I know you've heard this before, but hear me out, because most people completely misunderstand what an emergency fund actually is and why it comes before everything else, including investing. Your emergency fund is not a savings goal. It's not something you work toward while you're also doing other financial things. It is the literal foundation that makes every other financial move possible. Here's why. The moment you invest money without having cash reserves, you've introduced a massive hidden risk into your plan. What happens when your car breaks down? What happens when you lose your job? What happens when a medical bill shows up? Without an emergency fund, you are forced to either sell your investments at potentially the worst possible time, or you go into debt. Both of those outcomes are devastating to long-term wealth building. The standard recommendation is 3 to 6 months of living expenses kept in a high-yield savings account, and that range matters. If you have a very stable job, maybe a government position or a tenured role, 3 months might be enough. If you're self-employed, if you work in a volatile industry, or if you have dependents, you want to be closer to 6 months or even a little beyond that. This money sits in cash. It does not go into the stock market. It does not go into crypto. It is there specifically so that life's inevitable surprises never force you to derail your investment strategy. Once that floor is established, everything else becomes possible. And now we move to step 2, which is where things start to get really interesting and really valuable. Step 2 is capturing free money. And I use that phrase intentionally because that is literally what it is. If your employer offers a 401k match, and many employers do, that match is the single highest return investment available to any working person in America, full stop. No stock, no index fund, no real estate deal can consistently compete with a 100% return on day one. Here's how it typically works. Your employer might say they will match 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary. That means if you earn $60,000 a year and you contribute 6%, which is $3,600, your employer puts in another $1,800. You just made an immediate 50% return before the market does anything at all. Some employers match dollar for dollar up to a certain percentage. The specifics vary, but the principle is universal. Always contribute at least enough to get the full employer match before you do anything else. I cannot stress this enough. People who skip this step and instead pay down low-interest debt or invest in a taxable brokerage account first, thinking they're being smart, are actually leaving real money on the table. This is the one scenario in personal finance where the math is so overwhelmingly one-sided that there is essentially no argument for doing anything else first. So your sequence so far is emergency fund fully funded, then employer match fully captured. Now we go to step 3, and this is where your strategy starts to branch based on your specific situation. Step 3 is eliminating high interest debt. Now, I want to define high interest specifically because this is where a lot of confusion lives. High interest debt means anything with an interest rate above roughly 7%. Credit card debt, personal loans, payday loans, these fall into that category. The reason you tackle this before investing further is straightforward math. If you're paying 18 or 22% interest on a credit card balance and the stock market historically returns around 8 to 10% annually on average, you are mathematically losing money by investing instead of paying off that debt. Think about it this way. Paying off a credit card charging you 20% interest is the equivalent of getting a guaranteed 20% return. No investment can consistently promise you that. So before you start building your investment portfolio beyond the employer match, you need to destroy this debt. There's a psychological element here too. High interest debt creates a constant financial drag on your life. It creates stress, it limits your options, it reduces your ability to take advantage of opportunities when they come along. Getting rid of it isn't just math. It's also freeing up mental bandwidth and creating the clarity needed to make better financial decisions going forward. Now, there's an important distinction here. Not all debt is bad debt. Your mortgage, your student loans, if the interest rate is relatively low, these do not necessarily need to be wiped out before you continue investing. Low interest debt, roughly anything below 4 or 5%, can actually make mathematical sense to carry while investing because the long-term investment returns likely exceed what you're paying in interest. The nuance matters. Target the high interest stuff aggressively and treat lower interest debt with more strategic patience. Step 4. Now we're getting into the territory that really separates the people who build serious wealth from everyone else. Step 4 is maximizing tax-advantaged accounts. And this is the step that middle-class households most often either skip entirely or dramatically underutilize. Let's talk about what tax-advantaged actually means in practical terms. When you invest inside a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a 401k, you are getting government-sponsored benefits that make your money grow faster than it would in a regular brokerage account. These aren't small benefits. Over decades, the difference can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's start with the Roth IRA, because for most people watching this, it is the most powerful vehicle available. A Roth IRA allows your money to grow completely tax-free. You put in after-tax dollars, meaning you've already paid taxes on that money, and then it grows for decades. And when you retire, you pay zero taxes on the withdrawals. Zero. In a world where tax rates may very well be higher in the future than they are today, locking in your current tax rate now and never paying again on that growth is an extraordinary advantage. In 2025 and 2026, the contribution limit for an IRA sits at $7,000 per year if you're under 50 and $8,000 if you're 50 or older. That's not a massive number, but invested consistently over 30 years, that $7,000 per year could grow to well over $1 million that the government can never touch. That's the power of tax-free compounding. The traditional IRA works slightly differently. Your contributions may be tax-deductible now, which lowers your taxable income today, but you pay taxes on withdrawals in retirement. Which one is better for you depends on whether you think your tax rate will be higher now or later. Generally, if you're earlier in your career and earning less, Roth tends to win. If you're in your peak earning years and in a high tax bracket, might make more sense. When in doubt, younger investors tend to benefit more from the Roth. After your IRA, go back to your 401k. Most employers allow you to contribute beyond the match amount, all the way up to the annual IRS limit, which sits at $23,500 in 2025. If you've maxed your IRA and you still have investment dollars available, putting more into your 401k gives you additional tax protection on those dollars. And if your employer offers a health savings account, known as an HSA, and you qualify by being enrolled in a high-deductible health plan, this is another extraordinary vehicle that most people completely ignore. The HSA is the only account in the American tax system that gives you a triple tax benefit. Contributions go in pre-tax, the money grows tax-free, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are tax-free. Triple. No other account does that. If you're healthy and you can afford to pay medical expenses out of pocket, consider letting your HSA grow invested and untouched as a supplemental retirement account. The core idea in step 4 is this. Before you put money into a regular taxable brokerage account, exhaust every available tax shelter you qualify for. The government has essentially set up multiple programs designed to help you build wealth with significant tax advantages. Use every single one of them before you start paying full taxes on investment growth. Step 5. Now we get into what I'd call the open field. By the time you've reached step 5, you have your emergency cushion, you've captured all free employer money, you've eliminated the financial deadweight of high-interest debt, and you've maximized your tax-advantaged accounts. If you still have money left to invest and your goal is to build wealth beyond retirement, now you open a taxable brokerage account and begin investing there. A taxable brokerage account is simply an investment account with no special tax treatment. You buy and sell assets, and you pay capital gains taxes on your profits. This isn't a bad thing, it's just the standard version of investing. The reason it comes after everything else is that you want your highest growth assets to sit inside tax-advantaged accounts whenever possible. But once those are maxed, a taxable brokerage is absolutely where additional wealth gets built. Inside this account, the same investing principles apply: diversification, low-cost index funds, long-term thinking. The S&P 500 Index Fund is one of the most consistently powerful wealth-building instruments in the history of modern finance. Low fees, broad diversification, and participation in the growth of the American economy over time. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You don't need to outsmart hedge fund managers. You just need to stay consistent, stay diversified, and let time do the heavy lifting. One thing worth understanding about taxable brokerage accounts is tax loss harvesting. When some of your investments are down, you can sell them, capture the loss for tax purposes, and immediately reinvest in a similar but not identical fund. This can offset gains elsewhere in your portfolio and reduce your tax bill. It's a strategy worth learning as your portfolio grows. Step 6. This is where I want to talk about something that goes beyond the mechanics of where to put money and into the actual philosophy of building wealth. Because getting the steps right is only part of the equation. The other part is understanding compounding at a deep level and using time as your most valuable asset. Albert Einstein, whether or not he actually said it, is often credited with calling compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. The person who understands it earns it, and the person who doesn't pays it. There is real wisdom in that, regardless of the source. Compounding means that your returns generate their own returns. $1 invested today becomes $1.10 next year. That $1.10 then earns returns. And over 30, 40 years, the acceleration becomes almost incomprehensible. Let me give you a concrete example. Two people start investing. Person A starts at 22 years old and invests $300 per month until they're 65. Person B waits until they're 32 years old and invests the same $300 per month until 65. Both invest the same monthly amount. The only difference is the 10 years person B waited. Assuming the same 7% average annual return, person A ends up with roughly nearly $1 million. Person B ends up with roughly half that. 10 years of waiting cut the final number almost in half. Time is not just important in investing, it is the most important variable in the equation.
This is why the sequence matters so deeply. Every dollar you waste paying unnecessary taxes, every dollar lost to high-interest debt interest payments, every dollar that sat in a low-yield savings account when it could have been inside a Roth IRA is a dollar that missed compounding cycles it can never get back. The smartest order to invest isn't just about optimization. It's about protecting your dollars from the forces that erode them and directing them toward the forces that multiply them. Now, I want to address a mistake that I see constantly, and it's one that even financially educated people make: the mistake of waiting for the perfect moment to invest. People hold cash because the market feels expensive. They wait for a dip. They wait for things to calm down. They wait until they feel more confident. And while they're waiting, their money isn't working. Decades of data support one consistent finding: time in the market beats timing the market. Every major study on this topic reaches the same conclusion. Investors who tried to time the market, getting out before downturns and back in at the bottom, consistently underperformed investors who simply stayed invested through everything. The reason is that missing just the 10 best days in the stock market over a 20-year period can cut your returns roughly in half. And those best days often happen right in the middle of the worst periods, when everyone is scared and waiting on the sidelines. So, once you have your framework in place, the steps completed, and your investment vehicles chosen, the single best thing you can do for your wealth is to automate your contributions and leave them alone. Set up automatic transfers, automate your brokerage contributions, automate your IRA maxing, and then do not watch the market every day. The investors who build the most wealth are usually the ones who set their strategy, stay consistent, and have the discipline to ignore the noise. Let me also quickly address the question of real estate, because I know a lot of you are wondering where it fits into this framework. Real estate is a legitimate and historically powerful wealth building asset, but it is not step one. It is not step two. It is something that comes after the foundational steps are in place. The reason is simple. Real estate requires significant capital, carries substantial ongoing costs, lacks liquidity, and introduces management complexity. Done well, it can be extraordinary. Done before you have a solid financial foundation, it can become a trap. If real estate is a goal for you, treat it like an advanced stage of step 5 or beyond. Save for your down payment in a high-yield savings account alongside your regular investment strategy. Understand the market you want to invest in deeply, and never put yourself in a position where a few missed rent payments from a tenant could threaten your financial stability. The foundation always comes first. Now, let's pull all of this together into a clean sequence you can actually use. First, build your emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a liquid, high-yield account. This is your starting point and your financial floor. Second, contribute to your 401k up to the full employer match. This is free money with a guaranteed return. Never leave it uncaptured. Third, pay off all high-interest debt, meaning anything above roughly 7%. This is a guaranteed return equal to whatever rate you're paying. Do this aggressively and completely. Fourth, max out your tax-advantaged accounts. Roth IRA first for most people, then back to your 401k, and if eligible, your HSA. Let the power of tax-free or tax-deferred growth work for you in every available vehicle. Fifth, open and fund a taxable brokerage account with any remaining investment dollars. Invest in diversified, low-cost index funds and let time compound your wealth. And throughout all of this, the meta strategy is to automate, stay consistent, increase your contributions as your income grows, and never try to outsmart the market. The extraordinary thing about this framework is that it doesn't require you to be brilliant. It doesn't require insider knowledge or a financial advisor with exotic strategies. It requires patience, consistency, and the discipline to follow the steps in the right order. Here's the part that I think is most powerful and most underappreciated. Following this sequence doesn't just build wealth mechanically, it builds financial confidence. Every step you complete changes your relationship with money. When you have a funded emergency fund, you stop making fear-based financial decisions. When you've captured your full employer match, you feel the momentum of money working for you. When high-interest debt is gone, there is a psychological clarity that is hard to describe until you've experienced it. And when your tax-advantaged accounts are humming along, growing year after year, you start to see the long game clearly.
Wealth isn't built in dramatic moments. It isn't built by one brilliant stock pick or one perfect investment. It's built in the quiet, consistent, disciplined application of the right steps in the right order, repeated month after month and year after year. That's the truth that financial media doesn't find very exciting, but it's the truth that actually makes people wealthy. The people who retire with genuine financial freedom aren't usually the ones who found a hot tip. They're the ones who started early, followed a logical sequence, stayed consistent, and refused to overcomplicate it. They automated their contributions, they kept their fees low, they ignored the noise, and they let the math do what the math does over time. So here's what I want you to do right now. Look at where you currently are in this framework. Are you on step 1, still building that emergency fund? Are you on step 2, not yet capturing your full employer match? Are you somewhere in the middle with tax-advantaged accounts open but not maxed? Wherever you are, the move is the same. Focus on completing the current step before worrying about the next one. Resist the temptation to jump ahead. Trust the sequence. The smartest financial decision you will ever make isn't a specific investment, it's committing to the right framework and executing it consistently. That's it. That's the secret that isn't actually a secret, but changes everything once you actually do it. If this video gave you a clearer picture of your financial path, do me a favor and share it with one person who could use it, because this is the kind of information that genuinely changes outcomes, and most people never stumble across it at the right time. I'll see you in the next one.